The Art of Happiness, Dalai Lama and Howard Cutler. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a vast garden, where some paths lead to flowers that bloom brilliantly but wither by sunset, while others wind toward trees that bear fruit season after season. You notice how some visitors rush toward the brightest, most immediate blooms, filling their arms with petals that crumble before they reach the garden's gate. Others move more slowly, tending to the deeper roots, cultivating something that will nourish them long after they leave this place. As you observe this scene, a question begins to form in your mind. What distinguishes the happiness that fades with the morning dew from the contentment that grows stronger with each passing season? This question lies at the heart of one of the most profound collaborations between Eastern wisdom and Western psychology. When the Dalai Lama and psychiatrist Howard Cutler joined their perspectives, they illuminated something remarkable about the nature of human happiness. Their exploration reveals that the art of happiness is not about chasing fleeting pleasures or avoiding all discomfort, but about cultivating a deeper understanding of what truly nourishes the human spirit. In our age of instant gratification and endless comparison, their insights offer a different lens through which to examine what it means to live well. You begin to discover that happiness, according to their exploration, operates on two distinct levels. The first is the immediate sensory happiness that comes from external circumstances, a promotion, a perfect meal, the warmth of sunshine on your skin. This happiness is real and valuable, but it possesses the fragile quality of morning frost. The second level runs deeper, like an underground spring that continues flowing even when the surface streams run dry. This is the happiness that emerges from inner development, from the cultivation of qualities like compassion, patience, and wisdom. What makes this distinction so compelling is how it challenges the modern narrative of happiness. You live in a world that constantly suggests happiness can be purchased, achieved, or obtained through changing your external circumstances. Yet the deeper investigation reveals something different, that the most profound contentment often emerges not from getting what you want, but from understanding the very nature of wanting itself. This shift in perspective transforms happiness from a destination you frantically pursue into a way of traveling through life itself. The exploration of compassion reveals perhaps the most surprising insight about human happiness. You might expect that focusing on your own needs and desires would be the most direct path to fulfillment. Instead, the cultivation of genuine concern for others creates a paradoxical effect. The more you extend warmth and understanding outward, the more you discover flowing back toward you. This isn't a transaction or a strategy for personal gain, but rather a recognition that your well-being is intimately connected to the well-being of those around you. Consider how this plays out in your daily interactions. When you approach someone with genuine curiosity about their experience, when you listen not just to respond, but to understand, something shifts in the quality of that moment. The boundaries between your happiness and theirs become less rigid, less defended. You begin to experience what the Dalai Lama describes as a kind of inner warmth that doesn't depend on whether others return your kindness in equal measure. This warmth becomes particularly powerful when you encounter suffering, both your own and that of others. Rather than turning away from difficulty or trying to eliminate it through force of will, you learn to approach suffering with a different quality of attention. The transformation doesn't come from making the suffering disappear, but from changing your relationship to it. You begin to see that pain and difficulty, while never welcome, can become teachers that develop your capacity for resilience, empathy, and wisdom. The art lies in learning to distinguish between pain and the stories you tell yourself about pain. A physical injury hurts, but the narrative that this injury means your life is ruined adds layers of psychological suffering that compound the original difficulty. When you practice observing these stories with gentle skepticism, you discover a space between what happens and how you interpret what happens. In this space, you find a kind of freedom that external circumstances cannot touch. This understanding becomes particularly relevant as you navigate the complexities of modern life. You live in an era of unprecedented connectivity, yet rates of anxiety and depression continue to climb. You have access to more information, entertainment, and material comfort than any generation before you. Yet the sense of deep fulfillment often feels elusive. The principles explored in this collaboration suggest that this paradox isn't accidental, but rather points to a fundamental misunderstanding about where happiness actually resides. The constant stimulation of modern life can trap you in what might be called the hedonic hamster wheel, where each pleasure requires a slightly more intense successor to achieve the same satisfaction. Social media amplifies this by providing endless opportunities to compare your inner experience with others' carefully curated external presentations. In this environment, the practice of cultivating inner contentment becomes not just beneficial, but essential for psychological survival. Yet the question emerges: how do you develop this inner stability without becoming disconnected from the world around you? The answer lies in understanding that true happiness doesn't require you to become indifferent to external circumstances, but rather to engage with them from a place of greater inner security. When your sense of well-being isn't completely dependent on things going your way, you can actually engage more fully with both the joys and sorrows that life presents. This engagement takes on new dimensions when you consider the global challenges of our time. Climate change, political polarization, economic uncertainty, and social inequality can feel overwhelming when approached from a mindset that sees happiness as the absence of problems. But when you cultivate the kind of inner resilience described in this exploration, you can face these challenges with both clear-eyed recognition of their seriousness and a kind of determined hope that doesn't depend on guaranteed outcomes. The cultivation process itself requires patience and consistency, much like tending a garden. You cannot force a seed to grow faster by pulling on its shoots, nor can you develop emotional resilience by demanding immediate results from yourself. The practices of mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom mature slowly, often imperceptibly, until one day you notice that your reactions to stress have shifted, that your capacity for joy has expanded, that your relationships have deepened in ways you couldn't have planned or predicted. What emerges from this patient cultivation is not a state of perpetual bliss, but something more valuable, a kind of unshakable okayness that persists through both pleasant and unpleasant experiences. This okayness doesn't mean you become passive or indifferent, but rather that you can engage with life's challenges from a place of fundamental stability rather than desperate need. As you integrate these insights, two key realizations become clear. First, that happiness is not a commodity to be acquired, but a skill to be developed, requiring the same patience and practice you would bring to learning music or mastering a craft. Second, that the development of this skill benefits not only you, but everyone whose life intersects with yours, creating ripples of well-being that extend far beyond your individual experience. This leaves you with a question worth carrying into your quiet moments. If happiness is indeed a skill rather than a circumstance, what would it mean to approach your daily life as a practice ground for developing this capacity? How might your relationships, your work, even your most mundane activities, become opportunities to cultivate the kind of inner wealth that no external force can diminish? As you settle into the rhythm of your breathing, you can sense the possibility that the happiness you seek is not waiting for you at the end of some future achievement, but is quietly available in this very moment, in the simple fact of your awareness itself. Perhaps the art of happiness is nothing more and nothing less than learning to recognize the profound ordinariness of this ongoing miracle of conscious experience.